Hello, I'm Evan Mitchell, music director of the Kingston Symphony Orchestra, and for the week of September the 21st, here's What's On. So this is it. This is the concert that we've been waiting for in the orchestra all summer. It is our season opener this week, and we couldn't be more thrilled or excited to be playing for you after the summer break. We have such a spectacular season ahead of us, all sorts of incredible music, some of the very best music, in fact, that's been written in history. But before I get ahead of myself, we should start with the concert that we are performing this week, and that, of course, is our first Masterworks concert of the season, and boy, do we ever have a barn burner of a concert in store for you. This concert takes place one afternoon only, and that is Sunday, September 27, 2015, at 2:30 p.m. on stage at the Isabel Bader Center for the Performing Arts. So what is it exactly that makes this concert so special? Well, in addition to the fact that we are all extremely excited to be back on stage performing for you again, that we're just raring to go, beyond that, it's spectacular repertoire. And this particular concert, like all of the concerts in our Masterworks series this season, is built around a particular thematic idea. In this case, it's actually built around the idea of inspiration, specifically what it was that inspired the composers of the three pieces on this great concert to write the pieces that they did. We're going to start off with an amazing piece by Scott Good, who is one of my very favorite living composers. Scott Good is a fabulous Canadian composer, and this piece that we're going to be performing is actually only 2 years old, so it's very fresh, very new. It's entitled What the Chickpea Said to the Cook. And while that might seem like a bit of a strange title, it actually refers to a wonderful Sufi poem in which a chickpea is being boiled. And so it jumps to the lid of the pot and it screams at the cook, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you boiling me?" And the cook smacks the chickpea back into the pot with his ladle and says, "I do it because if I boil you, you will have flavor." And so it's an analogy of the student-teacher relationship about how sometimes we don't always understand the concepts that our teachers are teaching us and how sometimes we need to be broken down before we can be built back up again better than ever before. Here's a little taste of the flavors that come from the boiling of the chickpea in this magnificent piece by Scott Good, What the Chickpea Said to the Cook. And we're moving on to one of the greatest and most popular works in the orchestral repertoire. I'm speaking, of course, of Tchaikovsky's immortal First Piano Concerto. This is far and away one of the most popular, one of the most famous piano concertos ever written, and believe it or not, it suffers from the problem that Tchaikovsky often had with many of his concertos, in that initially when it was first performed, it was deemed to be unplayable. And in this case, it wasn't just some Joe Schmo nobody who was saying that this piece was unplayable. This was Nikolai Rubinstein, the great Russian piano virtuoso, who was a great friend of Tchaikovsky's, and they actually had a bit of a falling out over this piece. Tchaikovsky eventually decided to just publish it as is, and he gave the premiere to Hans von Bülow, who ended up, of course, championing the work. It became absolutely a cornerstone of the repertoire. Rubinstein eventually came around, and he championed the work as well, and he sort of mended the rift that he had created with Tchaikovsky, but it's an interesting slice of history that quite often Tchaikovsky's works were slammed not only by soloists but by critics as well. In fact, one particular scathing critical report that proved, of course, over time to be completely untrue. This particular critic said, and I quote, that Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto is hardly destined to become a classic. So I'm going to play for you a little bit of the opening of Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto. This is where we hear the grand sweeping melody that kicks off the concerto. It's a melody that we actually don't hear again over the course of the piece, and it's one of the most famous snippets in the piano concerto repertoire. Here it is. And last but certainly not least, we end this concert with Rachmaninoff's sweeping Second Symphony. And believe it or not, the event that actually inspired Rachmaninoff to write his Second Symphony was the abject failure of his First Symphony. It was a critical and commercial failure, and it left him feeling very insecure about his compositional abilities. But after taking some time and gathering his resolve and strength, he wrote the Second Symphony to prove to everyone that he was an exceptional compositional mind, and boy did he ever succeed. In my opinion, Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony is one of the greatest symphonic works in history, period. This symphony has everything you could possibly ask for. It has power, it has beauty, it has wit, it has extraordinary structure, and it also has some unbelievable moments of intimacy, courtesy of some of the greatest melodies ever written. Of course, Rachmaninoff was an incredible melodist, and I want to draw your attention actually to one such of these moments. This is the beginning of the third movement of this piece, and it has, again, in my opinion, the greatest clarinet solo in the orchestral repertoire. And it's just going to be played so beautifully, I know, by our principal clarinetist, Gordon Craig. And this is just an unbelievable solo. It goes on for about 90 seconds or so, and it just unspools like fine silk. It's extraordinary. Here's a passage from the beginning of the third movement so you can hear exactly what I mean. So there you have it. 3 spectacular pieces, 1 barn burner of an opening concert. This is something you absolutely should not miss. And if you don't have your tickets already, you need to call our box office because tickets are going very fast. We don't want you to be disappointed. Please make sure that you buy a ticket for this concert. It's going to be absolutely extraordinary. So for this week, that's what's on. If you'd like to learn more about this concert or any of the other concerts the Kingston Symphony performs, then please browse to kingstonsymphony.on.ca. Purchasing tickets couldn't be easier. You can just give us a call at 613-530-2050 and speak with one of our wonderful customer service representatives, or you can buy your tickets online at kingstonsymphony.on.ca. For the Kingston Symphony Orchestra, I'm Evan Mitchell, and I'll see you at the concert.